Imagine a world where friendship arises in the most improbable places, where childhood innocence becomes a powerful lens for observing the horrors of history. This is the framework John Boyne offers us in his moving novel, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. Published in 2006, this work quickly established itself as a modern classic, whose ability to profoundly impact readers does not fade over time. Boyne, an Irish author with extensive experience in contemporary literature, gives us a story that explores innocence, friendship, and moral boundaries through the eyes of a child. The plot of The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is simple on the surface but filled with meanings and symbolism that make it a complex and emotional work. It takes us back to World War II and introduces us to Bruno, an 8-year-old boy who lives a comfortable, carefree life in Berlin, where games and pranks occupy much of his days. However, the situation changes drastically when his father, a high-ranking army officer, receives a new assignment that forces the family to move to a mysterious, isolated place. Bruno's new home, far from his familiar surroundings, awakens in him a mix of curiosity and unease. One of the most remarkable aspects of the novel is the narrative voice and perspective from which the story is told. Boyne opts for an approach that captures the childlike perception of the protagonist, allowing us to see the world as Bruno sees it. Innocent, without malice, and oblivious to the historical and social contexts that we, as adult readers, know too well. This choice not only adds tenderness and humanity to the narrative, but also intensifies the underlying tragedy. The reader is constantly aware of implications that Bruno cannot comprehend, creating sustained emotional tension. Bruno is an endearing character who represents the purity and natural curiosity of children. His innocence is the story's driving force, leading him to explore beyond the limits imposed by adults and discover a place he calls the farm. There he meets Shmuel, a boy who, unlike Bruno, lives a grim, oppressive reality on the other side of a fence. The relationship that develops between Bruno and Shmuel is one of the story's most moving pillars, embodying a friendship that defies the darkest circumstances and arises from a pure human connection, unaffected by prejudice and indoctrinated hatred. The contrast between Bruno and Shmuel is heartbreaking. Bruno, unaware of why Shmuel wears striped pajamas and is always on the other side of the fence, approaches his new friend with a curiosity and empathy that seem almost miraculous given their context. Shmuel, despite living in a situation the reader recognizes as tragic, initially presents as a shy, distrustful boy who gradually opens up to the possibility of genuine friendship. This bond becomes the beating heart of the story, showing how childhood innocence can transcend the walls of hatred and segregation imposed by the adult world. The genre of The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is a blend of historical fiction and young adult literature, but it would be misleading to categorize it solely within these boundaries. Though accessible to a younger audience, the depth of the themes and the emotional weight carried by the story make it equally powerful and relevant for adults. The novel addresses themes of childhood innocence, dehumanization, and historical brutality with a subtlety that allows readers to reflect on the tragedy from a fresh perspective, stripped of explicit details but with a symbolic weight that resonates long after finishing the last page. Regarding themes, Boyne weaves elements that invite us to reflect on the duality of good and evil, willful ignorance, and the perception of reality from a limited perspective. Through Bruno's eyes, we see how we can be taught to accept certain things as normal, and how that worldview can clash with the truth when curiosity and humanity find their way. This contrast between what adults know and what children can perceive becomes a critique of disinformation and complacency, elements that, in the historical context of the novel, led to terrible consequences. The novel is particularly relevant not only for its narrative, but for the way it communicates the horrors of war and the destructive nature of prejudice in a way that is not explicit, but deeply evocative. By keeping the narration in a tone that respects the protagonist's innocence, Boyne allows the story's impact to resonate more powerfully. This narrative technique forces readers to fill in the gaps with their knowledge, creating an active participation in the story and an intense emotional bond. The importance of the boy in the striped pajamas in modern literature lies in its ability to touch the human soul in a way few books manage. It is not just a story about friendship and innocence, but a work that reminds us of the costs of dehumanization and the urgent need to preserve empathy even in the darkest contexts. Boyne achieves a balance between the simplicity of the narrative voice and the complexity of the themes, making the novel a bridge between generations, offering young readers a window to the past while giving adults a stark reminder of the importance of remembering and reflecting. In the literary sphere, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas has been compared to other works that address similar themes, like The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Both novels use a child's perspective to tell a story set in World War II, and both use the contrast between the childlike view and the adult reality to underscore the tragedy and absurdity of war. However, what sets Boyne apart is his use of a more direct language and a plot developed in a more intimate setting, focusing on small moments and decisions that, though they may seem insignificant, can lead to unforeseen and devastating consequences. In summary, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is a work that does not just narrate a story but invites introspection and questioning of how we understand goodness, evil, and empathy. The connection between Bruno and Shmuel becomes a powerful reminder that, while societal and historical divides may seem insurmountable, humanity can, and sometimes does, shine even in the darkest places. It is a reading that impacts, educates, and, most importantly, resonates long after closing its pages. A work that every literature lover should experience, not just for its story, but for the way it reminds us of the importance of seeing the world with kinder eyes and understanding the complexity that innocence can harbor in times of inhumanity. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this recommendation. Together, we form a community of readers united by the magic of reading and the adventure of discovering new stories. Thank you.